Thank you very much. While we're on the subject of food, now that you have me on stage, you get to see what good Indian food looks like. Yeah? So please try it. We're going to have a very interesting session here. Today we have a great panel to talk about hotel management agreements of the 21st century. May I request some of the people here, if you could maybe move in, somewhere closer so you can get to see the entire panel. Will that be okay? Some people are shy. Yeah? Don't be shy. I'm the one on stage. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So the topic that we're going to discuss is agreements of the 21st century. May I introduce my panel to come on stage? We have Louis, who's the Vice President of Development, Middle East and Africa for AccorHotels. Hi, Louis. Come on. Anywhere. Sit anywhere. Take your pick. We have Joby, Beretta, Director at the bench. Welcome. Panos, who is Vice President of Development, Middle East and Africa for Wyndham Hotels. Panos. And finally, Costas, Regional Vice President, Middle East and Africa for Marriott International. Hi, come on. Anywhere, sit anywhere.
Okay. Change it, yeah. Nicer.
So, before we came here, Joby and I, we made a pact. We're going to give these operators a bit of a hard time. Yeah? We're going to ask them tough questions. Let's see how they handle that. Starting with a very basic question, keep it light for them. So here goes. What are the current factors in the GCC that should lead the modern owner to choose franchising or third-party management? What other realistic alternatives are there? Panos, you want to go first?
So from our end, we entertain both types of contracts that you mentioned, both franchise and management contracts. And when we get approached by an owner, then we would look at the deal, we would look at the location, we would look at the owner, we would look at the owner capabilities, if you want, in terms of allocating or not a franchise contract. Our preference and strategy for the region is growth through management contracts. And I would say majority of our pipeline is actually management contracts, whereas majority of our operational rooms today are franchise contracts, which is what we are known for as Wyndham Hotel Group.
You mentioned a very interesting concept about manchise and Fran-man agreements. You want to maybe tell our audience something about that?
So we just created a new term.
We did create it, didn't we?
Yes,
yeah. You did.
Yes, I did. We need to trademark it. So everybody knows about franchise contracts, so contracts that are signed as management contracts with the option to turn them into franchise after a certain period, which is pre-agreed at the time of the negotiation. But there is also another form that we're using at Wyndham, so we do the reverse. We also sign franchise contracts, whereby we examine with the owners the possibility also of the management contract, and in case, for example, during the tenure of the franchise, while starting with the franchise contract, if there are difficulties, market conditions change, etc., then we have a pre-agreed mechanism to change the franchise into management with a certain notice period that would be applicable to allow us to prepare ourselves.
Costas, tell us about what's happening at the Marriott.
Like Wyndham, the strategy is primarily to grow through management contracts. This is a reflection of the market. The vast majority of the owners in this region tend to be investors, passive when it comes to the management of their hotels, and therefore their preferred option is that of a management contract. In recent years, we have seen an increase in requests for franchise agreements for two main reasons. One of them is because some ownership groups have developed their own in-house capabilities and now are willing and able to actually run the hotels under a franchise agreement. And the second reason is we have an increase in third-party operators, which are facilitators to have more franchise agreements in this region.
Louis, your turn.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So to start with, we look at it a bit differently, I assume. So when we start from the top, we'd never consider a franchise for any of our luxury brands. The focus on franchise would be probably on the economy sector, some of the mid-scale. However, when we are talking about prime destination, key cities, our main focus will always be management in order to ensure proper delivery of services and brand standard consistency. So on top, it's always management. When it comes to our economy and mid-scale, we look at the destination, we assess the situation.
Good, thank you. So you know, a lot of people sort of tend to believe that that management agreements are sort of archaic. They haven't kept pace with the changing, you know, trends in our industry, particularly things that have happened over the past 5 to 10 years. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about certain key issues with regards to management agreements, and I'm going to get your perspectives on it.
Sure.
But I will give you guys a chance to think. So I'm going to ask this to Joby. Joby, when you talk about risk, control, and reward, the relationship between these three in management agreements, typically owners tend to believe that the operators take too much risk, have too much control, and walk away with too much of the reward. As a legal consultant, what is your opinion on this?
Well, it depends. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of options when it comes to contracting, and that changes the risk-reward, you know, as you go along. The one far extreme is probably a lease, and that's probably the highest risk for an operator, and that's probably but also the highest reward. But that's why you don't see them very often in this region. But they're common in Germany and Spain and places. Then you move to a management agreement, which is the operator taking a lot more skin in the game, that they are running the actual hotel, they take all the fees. Then you move along to a manchise, as we talked about. Franchise, the operator steps back, less risk, less reward, the fees go down. And then even further than that is probably a simple license agreement, which again you don't really see because operators want to control their brand. So I think that it depends where they are on that spectrum, depends on the risk and the reward.
Thank you. I want to get the operator's perspective on it. So anybody, please feel free to go.
I can jump in. It's tough for me to tell you what was happening before 10 years. I was 20 back then, so it's a bit difficult. So today, as long as I've been working in the industry, the management agreement adapted depending on the location, the requirement of the owners. And I think that at Accor, at least, whenever we are reviewing a project, we try as much as possible to give the comfort required, and we adapt the management agreement depending on the location. I know, for example, in Asia Pacific, management agreements are much shorter, 30, 40 pages, because owners' expectations from this management agreement are different. In our part of the world, owner needs to have the comfort, things to be detailed in the agreement, and for us to go the extra mile to phrase it and have it clear, black and white in the agreement.
Thank you, thank you. Guys, anybody want to go have a go at this?
One way to look at it is risk-reward. The other one is responsibility, right? And if we compare and contrast management agreement with a franchise agreement for a second, the responsibility of running the hotel on a day-to-day basis in a management agreement is with the operator. The responsibility of running the hotel on a day-to-day basis in a franchise situation is with the owner. So this is really the fundamental difference between responsibility and risk, and therefore reward between the two models, is who's doing what and what are they responsible for and rewarded for.
Thank you. I'm going to direct my next one at Panos. Yeah? You know, like I said, the industry that we work in, it's rapidly changing. There's new products, new competition, changing technology, and even industry disruptors. In such a rapidly changing environment, we have operators asking for long-term contracts, 10 years, 20 years, and sometimes even beyond 20 years. So my question to you is it fair to ask owners to lock themselves in to one operator for such a long period of time, given the rapidly changing industry dynamics?
Yes. So historically, the agreements, whether franchise or management, have been quite long. And what we have seen over the last, let's say, even 100 years, whatever, we've seen that the agreements, the average duration of the agreements have actually gradually been shrinking. And each one of us will have like minimum terms that we would we would agree to, and below that, basically, we wouldn't be able to be in discussion. And there's always a correlation between the term and the actual project itself, meaning the location, the number of rooms, the desire of the operator to enter into the specific market under the specific contract, the desire of the operator to work with a specific owner. There's many variables that will affect this commercial decision, if you want. Yeah.
Any other? Louis, would you want to have a go at this?
Yes, definitely. We, at the end of the day, are in the business. If you look at operators, we make money out of our management fees. And for our the effort we put in positioning a hotel, building up the performance, we believe that the length of the agreements is very important because it needs 3 or 4 years to ramp up the hotel. And then once it's doing well, we need to make sure that we have enough amount of year in order where we're generating proper fees and it's generating proper income for us. And I want to also add something. In terms of length of the agreements, depending on whether you're doing luxury or economy, it might change significantly. So for luxury, we'll always go at 20 or 25 years because the real estate investment on a luxury asset is typically longer. Whereas for economy, we might consider something a bit smaller, shorter.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to talk about the rise of social media and the resulting customer perception. Now, typically, HMAs are very financially driven in terms of their performance clauses. Given that social media has given your guests, your customers, an opportunity to actually go online and check the profile, the service quality of hotels that you operate. Is it time to introduce performance tests in HMAs that are linked to customer perception and feedback? Costas.
Good question.
It's a very good question.
Well done, Vikram.
Sorry, yeah. You're sitting right next to me. I had to pick you.
Joby. Look, customers tend to vote with their feet, and that is reflected on occupancy and rate of the hotel. So I think already we're doing that, all of us, because all the performance tests, any benchmarking is done based on occupancy, RevPAR, etc. It is our responsibility as an operator to ensure that the hotel is performing financially to the best of its ability within the market conditions. Now, social media on its own is one, perhaps, element, but ultimately it's all about the financial performance of the hotel. So how would you respond in a situation that the hotel is doing very, very well in terms of RevPAR, but there were a few negative social media comments? Is that the issue you're trying to address?
That good customer perception and feedback automatically translates to financial performance.
Look, we're in the services industry, right? And this is not new. Word of mouth or reviews were always there. Repeat customers were always there based on good product, good service. It's just that the communication is slightly different there. The reason that all of us spend always effort and money to invest on loyalty and keep our customers happy is because, A, happy customer is always welcome, but 2, it translates into financial results. And that's from an owner point of view, that's really the main objective.
And Vikram, just to add on this, if you have the tool to properly monitor this, we might consider it. But I doubt that today you have a non-biased tool that will assess all what's happening properly, a non-biased one, in order for us to put it and put a value of a management agreement versus this review.
Fair. Let's get a neutral opinion on this. Joby, you've done a lot of hotel management agreements. What is your take from an owner's perspective on adding or linking customer perception and social media feedback to HMAs?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think we need to keep the operators on their toes and introduce new concepts. I mean, historically, the performance test is normally very tightly drafted, so the operator default is normally linked, as you said, to RevPAR or performance against the budget. And you normally have to fail it once or twice, and there's a cure right. So it's very hard for an owner to actually terminate the agreement through a performance test. I have actually acted for one owner, and they tried to introduce a concept, as you just mentioned, and it's sort of a service level agreement, almost like a normal outsourcing agreement. Service levels, KPIs. If you don't get certain feedback, like 90% on TripAdvisor, you'll be penalized X amount of dollars. You know, so it wasn't a termination right. It was more sort of a service credit KPI issue. To be honest, it didn't get anywhere. The operator, it was a no-go. But it was something that we, you know, why not put it on the table and try and introduce it? Why not challenge them? And like you said, if it can be tested objectively, why not introduce that?
Fair. Panos, do you want to give us your opinion on this?
Yeah, so it's a metric. So at the end of the day, it's part of the commercial discussion that will take place between an owner and an operator. Now, most probably, it won't be the only metric that will define the termination. It will be part of a set of variables that will be combined and weighted. So the discussion will end up being a little bit complicated. And I guess at the end of the day, what matters more? Is it maybe, I guess, meeting the budget and penetrating the market in terms of a RevPAR? Sometimes it's the ultimate measure because this is what brings the bottom line. And if you prioritize different metrics, most probably these two metrics will still be the most relevant ones to apply. Yeah.
Thank you. My next question is about OTAs, yeah, and the rise of OTAs. Now, you know, over time, an increasing number of bookings come through online channels, through OTAs, yeah? It's a two-part question. Firstly, I want to ask, as operators, do you charge reservation fees and other charges for reservations that come from OTAs?
Sure, I'll take this one. So this morning when the panelists were talking about OTAs and about branded and unbranded, I just wanted to highlight something. When you go on Booking.com, the top picks for bookings through Booking.com are always branded hotels. So if you're unbranded, you won't get picked to start with. Second answer is yes, we charge part of our distribution and charge for OTAs. For one main reason is that we negotiate on a global level discounted rates where our owners benefit significantly. So if you add up the commission of an OTA on top of the fee that we will take, it will still be significantly lower than a standalone unbranded hotel that will go directly and negotiate with an OTA. So my answer is yes, we do, because we bring value and we still are cheaper than if you go directly to an OTA.
What is your opinion on this, Panos?
So yes, we do also. And reality is that today's world there is transparency. It's not like the old days that you would walk down the road, go through the travel agent, they will open the black and white screen, the GDS screen, and you will make your hotel booking. And me as a guest, I will only know one hotel, and I will repeat my bookings to this hotel. Today's world, there is connectivity, there is transparency, and people want to compare and want to see what the others think about a specific hotel. So they use these comparative websites, OTAs, online travel agents, whereby they can look at the different hotels, and then they book. And most people might know, might not know, there is something called rate parity. So whether you go to the OTA or the brand website, if you add all the taxes and service charges and other fees, at the end of the day, the prices would be at the par. But once the guest, the consumer, is at the OTA website, there is no reason, absolutely no reason for them to go back to the brand website and make a direct booking with the brand, unless they are basically a member of a loyalty program with that group. And this is what actually the only or the strongest tool that the operators have in terms of addressing the OTA rise. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, simply put, yeah, the OTAs do the work and you get the fees. Is that true, Costas?
The OTAs do the work and we get the fees. They get the fees, right? So the OTA fees are a large percentage of the total stay. If they book through one of our channels, the fee will be a one-time fee, which, depending on the brand, could be as low as $5, no matter how long is the stay and no matter how much the fees that they pay. They get a commission of the entire stay. So they do the work, they get the fees.
Okay. My next question is regarding management fees. Yeah, we discussed this a little bit outside, yeah? I'm going to ask nonetheless. I have seen contracts in North America that charge management fee on room revenue only. However, the contracts that you see in the region ask for management fees on total revenue. In your opinion, as operators, is this fair on owners?
Should I? Okay. Definitely, it is definitely fair. We manage we manage hotels in a holistic approach. We look at the hotel as one, whether it's the public areas, the rooms, F&B. Even if a part of a hotel is leased out, we are managing the relationship with the leased entity. So we believe that anything that we take care of, anything that's under our responsibility, we are clearly allowed to charge a fee on. So whether we are running a restaurant or running a spa or managing the relationship with a third party, I believe that yes, we are entitled for a management fee on that. And to add on this, in secondary location, not in major city, a branded hotel will drive people in a hotel, whether it's for F&B, spa, or rooms. And people are not comfortable in secondary location to walk into a hotel, whether it's for F&B or other services, if it's not branded with a recognized brand.
Wonderful. On the subject of F&B, would that still apply to third-party operated restaurants?
Yes, absolutely. So the way we do it is that we are absolutely open if there is a need where we believe with an owner that there's a need for us to go out and get either a partner, a franchise, or a lease-out outlet, but it is always under our responsibility and our management overview. So while we will manage the relationship with this third party, we will take fees on the lease because we are managing this lease on behalf of the owner.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That was a very good explanation. Panos, your take on this. Is it fair on owners?
I will agree with Luis, not because I'm an operator, but at the end of the day, a hotel is an entity. It's a project that has multiple components. It has the rooms, it has the food and beverage, it has the meeting rooms, the banquet halls, and at the end of the day, you manage the whole establishment. So you're entitled to fees for all of the outlets and the facilities that are under operation. And with regards to the F&B, it's complex. There are many scenarios that can come into play. So for example, the hotel as a P&L, it could be sometimes that a certain space is leased out, and the lessee actually pays a lease. The lease comes into the hotel P&L, and they handle the operation. And then, as Luis said, you'll make sure that the operation is in line with the standards of the hotel in terms of cleanliness, safety, service, and many components. It could be that the specific space, you could receive a franchise and you will manage it as a hotel P&L. So you will pay only franchise fees to the brand that's coming for the specific outlet. Or it could be that this specific outlet is managed by a third-party franchise management entity, and they get management fees, and the rest of the revenues, post-payment of costs and fees, translates into profit for the hotel operation. Many scenarios applicable. Yeah.
Thank you. Costas, your opinion, is it fair, on owners?
Nothing is free.
In the absolute vast majority of the hotels we manage the entire property. The rooms, public spaces, restaurants, etc. So the management fee applies to the entire property, the entire hotel. Even when we have license agreements with restaurant brands, even in those cases, we actually run those restaurants. We generate the revenue, and therefore our fees applies to the entire revenue. Absolutely.
I think there are some, if you move to a franchise model.
I was just going to say, let's get a neutral opinion. Go ahead.
So if you move to a franchise model, some of the operators do take just on room revenue rather than total revenue. So it depends if we're talking about HMAs or the franchise model. I think is the first point I'd make. And then second point, I think what Panos said, the structures now are getting much more complicated. The days of just a single hotel under one contract are changing. You know, every hotel's trying to be unique, bringing in new sort of brands, new concepts. So we're seeing a lot more complex hybrids of a franchise, a hotel management agreement, some facilities management maybe. So you don't necessarily need to do the same fees for the whole mixed-use project. You could say to the operator, okay, you can still manage this portion, but I want to pay you less fees, because basically you're just leasing out the space and you've got less involvement. So you still get a fee because you'll manage it, but it doesn't have to be the same split of base and incentive fee.
As the rest of the property.
Yeah.
while we're with you, Joby, I just want to ask, from a legal perspective, yeah, and you talk about the legal terms in HMAs. What trends do you see, and what do you see owners asking for in order to cover their interests in HMAs?
Owners are just asking for shorter agreements. I mean, I think there's a lot of HMA fatigue in the region, because especially if they've got multiple operators. So I mean, I sat for 3 days once and read marked up three different operator agreements, and some of them are, can be up to 4 different contracts, 100 pages long. So I think there's still, we could make it a lot easier for owners to sign deals, and for the operator deal guys. And so I think we need to move towards, I mean, one thing I've sort of put out there is having something similar, like a template like FIDIC. So in the construction industry, you have a hotel, you have an industry standard contract that everyone sort of works off. You can still have variations for the Marriotts and the Wyndhams, whatever, can have a few pages of changes. But then the owners, they know the contract, they know 90% of it, and you're only negotiating, a few pages rather than 500 pages each time.
You won't have a job anymore, Joby.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll still get to read the 5 pages, but you don't need to review the 500. That's fine if it puts me out of business. But I think that's what we need move towards something really simple. So once you've done the commercials, it's done. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. All you guys are after the same thing in terms of protection, in terms of the brand, that you've got the insurance, that you've got the capex when you need it. They're all common themes, but you all write it in totally different ways is the issue, I think.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. We have just a couple of minutes remaining, so I'm going to leave it open for some questions. You can go first, sir. Can we have a mic here, please?
Hi, guys. Vikram, comment actually on the travel agent commissions. As per the Uniform System of Hotel Accounting, 11th revised edition, it's only the net, which is the gross minus the commission, which you can book as the top line. So this is logic number 1. By logic number 2, owners write first. So operator shouldn't have this freedom of, because it's owners write first in the waterfall. That's why the operator should not take any commission, which is directly negotiated with a third party. And my actual question was, what is your policy in terms of the withholding taxes for the properties which you operate outside UAE, say in a country like Saudi Arabia?
I'll start with the second question. We have an entity in Saudi Arabia, therefore we don't pay withholding tax, which is a major, at least the owner doesn't pay withholding tax, which is a major advantage in most of our negotiations. So we have a fully operational management entity in Saudi Arabia that signs all our management agreements. So that answers your withholding tax question. When it comes to the commission that we negotiate, we definitely follow the Uniform System of Account, but we don't follow it absolutely, and we make sure that we are in line with market norms. Uniform System of Account also said that staff housing is below the line, which we never do, also for the benefit of the owner. So we cannot always look at what Uniform System of Account says. We need to look at what makes sense, and we believe that we need to make a certain amount of commission that will cover the cost that we have on a global level in order to up our digital offering, up our negotiation with big travel agents in order to give our owners reduced fees and competitive fees. So we need to make money in order to be able to deliver this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. We're out of time, so we're going to close it here, but these guys are outside. Feel free to speak to them, pick their brains, and ask your questions. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was fascinating. I love the expression, the new model, friend man.